Welcome to Roundtable Mindset, the podcast where we seek to understand and share different perspectives in order to grow and challenge our own. And we encourage you, our guest, to do the same.
Each week we will pick a topic to discuss sharing our own unique thoughts and insights. There will be times when we won't agree, and let's be real, that's probably going to be most of the time, and that's okay. We feel it's important to understand that we can live in this polarized world and still respect one another and even be friends.
Well, hello and welcome back to Roundtable Mindset. This is Jamie.
And I'm Malin.
And you're probably not expecting to hear from us today. I don't think we were planning on putting out an episode, but I think we wanted to just kind of jump in and talk about some stuff.
We weren't expecting to be recording and releasing this soon. I'll say that much.
No.
So this is going to be going out pretty quick. I think Jamie and I have decided this is for our first time. We are going to do a raw conversation where events of yesterday, July 13th, kind of unveiled throughout the day. And we wanted to get on and have just a raw, honest conversation. So this episode's probably going to not have the best quality. There might be some background. Definitely say there will be stammered words and a lot of ums. But we just wanted to have a conversation, a raw conversation about what happened yesterday.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about, we plan to record on Sundays. It's kind of our day to do podcast work together. Malin had texted me and was like, hey, are you ready? And I was like, sure. Because I don't know. I told him, I said, I'm feeling a little funky today. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have a ton to say. I guess about specific things or what. I just, I don't know. What a weird day in America. I have to do a Google search because I'm going back in my memory banks. In my lifetime, I think Reagan was the last president there was an assassination attempted on him. I don't believe any other president in my lifetime has had that happen to them, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'd have to Google that. But as I was watching yesterday and the news coverage, it was kind of a monumental moment for me because in history books, I think for probably all of us listening, you go back to John F. K., right? Like John F. Kennedy I remember growing up, my mom talking about the man and what he represented. And I've heard the conspiracy theories. We've watched the videos. I think there's been some documents that were recently released too that now the public can see after it's been, like over 50 years or something like that. I was just trying to reflect on the importance of what was going on. And I was stunned. And I was stunned by a couple different things. But mostly what I was stunned by were people's reactions. And that's what kind of caught me off guard. But before I go down that path, I want to address something with you, Jamie, because I hear this a lot. You and I, we have no problems coming together and chatting about each other's beliefs on a multitude of topics, politics being one of them. And through the course of our friendship, which has been the majority of my life, I have had friends in the Republican space. I know you've said this too, people in the Democratic space. How can you be friends with her? How can you see things? Like, how do you have conversations when she believes the things she believes politically? And I will say, when it's times like this that comes on, the humanity comes before the party. And I know that Jamie and I are going to have a conversation on what's going on with the individual, regardless if you like his policies or hate his policies. There's a person there. And so what I'll say to everybody that asks me that question is, how can you be friends with Jamie when she believes what she believes from a political point of view? Is because Jamie also has the ability to have a conversation and see the humanity of who Trump is. And I'm going to speak from my point of view, Jamie, and please jump in. But what I appreciate about the conversation I'm hoping we're about to have is, yeah, you don't agree with Trump. You never will. I mean, we just released an episode a couple days ago that we recorded that both of us were reflecting on the debate. And I don't expect your views on him to change. But what makes me be able to have a conversation with someone like you across the aisle is that you recognize he is a father. He's a grandfather. He's someone's son. He's a person. Love him or hate him, nobody should have to go through what he just went through yesterday. And I think you recognize that. Yeah, I don't even know that I'm there yet, to be completely honest. I think I am just so stunned. The last attempt on a president, and let's be clear, this isn't an attempt on a president. This isn't an attempt on a presidential candidate, right? Former president and presidential candidate. The last attempt on a president was, you're right, it was Reagan, and there was some major mental health challenges in that whole situation, which I think makes this a little bit different. This kind of political violence that escalated to this level hasn't happened since the 60s, like 60s and 70s during, Robert Kennedy was assassinated during his presidential campaign. Wallace was violently attacked and rendered, I think he was paralyzed after his. And I sit and I'm thinking, my goodness, how are we here? You know what I mean? Like, how are we here? And it's got me feeling kind of numb today. It's a little bizarre. It's almost like since like 2020. What's next, right? And that's kind of been a joke. It's been a joke for a long time. And no, does this change my views or opinions on the man? No. In all honesty, it actually makes me more worried about what happens moving forward. And how do we as people respond to this so that it doesn't happen anymore? How do we keep from being like other countries with constant political strife and political violence and things like that? How do we stop it now? It's a heavy day. It's a heavy day for me.
Yeah. And before we go further, I know a lot of news was coming out of yesterday. I'm even getting updates today. Apparently there was an attendee of the rally yesterday by the name of Corey, and I'm sorry if I butcher his last name, Comparator, that was attending the rally that lost his life yesterday. And, when you look at this type of violence, even if it was directed at one person, the intended person, an innocent person, well, I don't even know how to phrase that phrase because they would both be innocent. But somebody lost their life for no reason other than, I'm going to say it was anger towards Trump. And it was misguided. And, a casualty happened that didn't need to happen. And before we continue, I just wanted to make sure we recognize that individual who lost their life and just kind of remember him as we continue our conversation, because it's just a sad day. It's a sad day all around. And I was able to read a Facebook post that his daughter put out there, and it's heart-wrenching, and it's a great tribute to her dad, but then you can hear the anguish as well as you read that post. And so before we go on, I just wanted to make sure we recognized him, recognized Corey, and what he went through yesterday.
I think at the end of the day, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because we've spent a year on this podcast talking about this very thing about how disagreement does not have to breed hate. How, we can come together around a table and have a conversation and learn from one another. And you're not going to change my mind. In 100 conversations, you very well might not change my mind. But to be able to have the skill set to sit at a table and listen to someone who you don't agree with and not walk away hating, kind of where this was born. You know what I mean?
Well, and the one thing that we never got to, because I don't know about you, but in my mind, I never went there, because I can have disagreements with someone. I can 100% go against what they go against, but I would never, my brain does not go to a place where I'm now going to hurt that person for believing something that I don't believe. And we've never talked about that on our podcast before. We've never talked about the violence that comes from, because I never thought about hurting you or hurting anybody else that disagreed with me. I mean, it never enters my mind. And so maybe that is something we should focus on a little bit, because yesterday lived itself out in front of me in near real time. And just like you said, I was shocked. I was shocked by it. I'm like, I don't understand somebody who hates another individual because of where they stand politically, that they would go through the measures that this individual did, climb a roof, scoot across it, take the time to try to aim and then pull the trigger numerous times. I don't know how many, I don't know the number. I know when I was watching, I heard several shots, but that doesn't register in my brain. And it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking yesterday.
Well, and I don't want to assume anything. This happened yesterday. This happened
Right.
less than 24 hours ago, right? So I have no idea. I don't know more than some light demographic information about the person that they allege did this. So I don't know what the motivation was. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't know any of that. I guess what I do know is that either way, this is something, and this is what I've been reflecting on this morning, is that this is something that I have been palatably fearful of for years. Something like this coming. I guess I'm still so shocked that it happened in my lifetime and that there isn't, I don't even know. It's like it's impossible to stop, and hate begets hate, and fear builds hate. And, I just think back on all of the last, lots of years. And I'll be super honest. I was really worried that this would come in the first Obama administration, when we had our first viable woman presidential nominee. Those are all times where this has been a scary thing, because it doesn't seem to matter. I think what's I don't know. I think what's really eating at me today is that it's like, even you've known me for a lot of years. You guys have been listening to us for a year, some of you. And if you know me personally, you know that everything I do is based out of justice, right? So that equality and justice is paramount. Do I fail? Absolutely. Do I fall short? Absolutely. But that's my goal. My goal is to make sure that those who don't have a voice get a voice, that those who are not treated fairly are treated fairly. And that's really how I try to live my life. I think I'm just surprised at how even the most pure intentions, even those people who really do live by a set of standards that transcend our own human fallibilities, can still hide hate in their heart. And I think that's where that is the one thing, that I've been saying for a couple of years now. Like, if we can't stop the divisiveness, if we can't stop the fear mongering and the hate mongering, where are we? And how do we move forward from that? Yeah. It's been difficult to collect my feeling or my thoughts today, I think. So if I feel a little random, it's because I'm just like, what the heck?
You're a little fragmented, but I know you. You're like trying to pull the pieces together as fast as you can. It happened less than 24 hours ago. My reaction's a little bit more, I don't want to say volatile, but once I saw Trump get up off the ground and they were issuing him to the SUV, I felt like, okay, I know at the moment he's not going to die. At least I didn't think so. It looked like it hit his ear even from the first moments of seeing it. So then that part of me was kind of settling down. And then I turned my attention to social media, which was probably the wrong thing to do, but that's what I did. I would be lying if I said I didn't get caught up in a little bit of it, because I did. I posted a few things, shared a few articles. But then I took a step back and I was watching and I was listening to the things that people were saying. And this is where I really started getting a little angry. And I'm going to go through just a couple of them with you, Jamie, because, I think this is a good conversation for us to have. It's a little cathartic. And maybe our audience likes to maybe think about these things. I don't know. But here it goes. Here's what's really started to kind of gnaw at me, is that literally moments after this incident happened and Trump was put into the SUV, I started seeing posts across all of the social medias that we have. And people were talking about this was a Democrat. Nope, this was a Republican. Nope, this was a Democrat. And they were so eager to make sure the world knew where this person stood politically, because that's what was driving the motivation. And it might have well been. I don't know. Again, we don't know all of the details. But my point was, or the thought that I was having, and here's my point, is moments after it was done, it wasn't, is Trump okay? Is the person okay? How is the audience doing? Was there a casualty? And at the time, to be fair, nobody knew any of this. But the first thing it seemed like people were gravitating towards is, was he a Republican? The shooter, was he a Republican or was he a Democrat? And I thought that was very telling of where people's minds are, and even in the environment that we were watching yesterday. I didn't see a lot of, there's some, and I'm not going to say there wasn't, but I saw a lot of people not focusing on people's safeties, not focusing on Trump's health, nothing, no condolences. It was strictly to, was it a Democrat or was it a Republican who shot that gun? And I guess in that, and maybe in the next couple days or weeks, maybe that matters. Maybe that becomes a focal point that we need to focus on. But again, I just thought it was telling that in the moments after that tragedy was, fresh in all of our minds, that's where everybody started going towards. And I think that speaks to the divisiveness that you were talking about, is that it's more important in an event like that, it's more important to understand what political party were they part of. And I just found that a little bit distasteful yesterday, and it really started making me angry. I have more, but I didn't know if you have something you want to say to that.
I'm curious. Was that not a thought that crossed your mind at all?
At first, I can honestly say no. I didn't. I mean, maybe if I'm really truthful for myself, maybe I made an assumption that it was a Democrat, but I was not thinking in terms of what political party was the shooter for. I was really trying to focus on what happened. I was actually scanning the audience, because the way that it looked,
me too,
it looked like the people directly behind him were being shot at too. And I saw there was some confusion, and I saw there were some people that were moving and ducking down, and some people I think were frozen in their seats because they didn't know what to do. So truthfully, my mind and my eye went to the people around, the people behind him, the people that was in front of them. And no, I didn't think, because there was an audio piece in there that said shooter down. So in my mind, the shooter just kind of dissolved, because I figured, okay, whatever down means, either killed or they have subdued him or her, because again, at the time we didn't know, but the shooter was, in my mind, taken care of at that moment. My focus was not, I wonder if that was a Democrat or Republican. Now, since then, and I've read this social media post, have I wondered that? Absolutely. But that was not even my first post that I put out there about the event that took place. And so that to me was where I was like, why is that the first thing people need to know? Why is that the first thing people care about, is what political party was this shooter part of?
Well, and to be fair, that was likely not the first. Well, I guess I can't speak to that, because just like you, that was my first thought was, oh my gosh, all of those people behind him, because I didn't notice at first, where it was coming from and how it all happened and, all of that. They hadn't gotten to the point yet where they were slowing down the video and rewatching it over and over again and explaining it and all of that stuff, right? So I'm looking all through, that crowd in the back thinking, oh my gosh, are there kids there? Are there, you know what I mean? Like those were my very first thoughts. And then my second thoughts were, holy crap, this is bad. And what if this is all politically motivated by the other side?
Yeah, and I can see that, and I do. It's not like I don't want to seem like I'm like, oh, politics is nothing that even crossed my mind. I mean, they were at a political rally, for crying out loud.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Come on. But what I'm just saying in the moment, and I'm talking, Jamie, I was on, I was on Facebook, I was on our Twitter account, I was on Threads, and I will say there was posts starting to come up almost right away after all of that that were talking about, was the shooter a Democrat or Republican?
Yeah, I don't. Oh my gosh,
Well, and then the other thing, if I can just, this kind of just wraps up. I'm going to wrap up a couple other, because I don't know how much longer I want to talk about this, just because it's just. I mean, we've all heard about it, but the other thing that shocked me, and I'm going to wrap them together, If I don't know, and I'm not going to give them by their name because I don't want to give them any credit, I do want to mention them though. Have you seen these TikTok posts that are going around about people saying and complaining about the fact that the shooter missed? And there's been two that I'm aware of. Again, I'm not going to give their TikTok handles because I don't want to give them any more publicity. But they were ranting on their channels that, the shooter had one job. I can't believe they missed. We needed somebody who could actually carry through the mission. I mean, there was a lot of hate billowing out. And again, these individuals, I don't know them. I only know what they put out into, onto their channels and into the internet. And that's all I get to base this off of. I know some of them have since taken or tried to take down their original posts and put something up that was a little bit more palatable because of the backlash they're receiving, rightfully so. But the fact of the matter is, for whatever was their motivation, if they truly feel this way or they were just trying to get extra followers or likes or, make a splash, the words that were coming out of their mouth were horrendous. They were actually complaining because another human being did not take the life of somebody else. And when you boil it down, again, you can put Trump's name in there. You can say it's Trump, and it was. But if you take out everything that makes this a political issue, a person tried to kill another person and failed, and people are upset about it. And that was the next thing that I saw when I was going through social media. And again, I've had conversations, and it's hard when you want to try to build a bridge with somebody and you want to talk to somebody across the aisle. And the only thing they want to talk to you about, or they want to say in a moment like this, was too bad that shooter missed. Too bad they weren't just a centimeter to the right or to the left. Just think of what, all of our problems could have went away. And that turns my stomach. And there were variations of posts like that all throughout these media channels. Were they as harsh as what these two TikTokers were putting on there? No. But again, the sentiment was kind of there. And I know there's going to be, if there's not already, there's probably going to be a slew of jokes about it. And, I think I've seen something this morning about Teflon Don. So I'm only assuming, there's references to Donald Trump as like Teflon. But it's just when people's reactions to that, it just makes my stomach sick. And that's, to me, we've had conversations behind closed doors and even on this podcast. I don't have a lot of hope for society in the future because I feel like it's kind of degrading. And I know you kind of disagree with me, but it's hard not to feel that way when something like this happens and you see there's people out in the world who are really champion for the death of someone else. Why? Because they fundamentally disagree with what this person stands for. And that's terrifying. And that's troubling to me. And that was the other avenue yesterday, and even this morning, that my blood started boiling. Is he's a dad, he's a grandfather, he's somebody's son, he was our past president, he may be our next president, but he's a human being, for crying out loud. And to rejoice because he was, to be upset, I should say, because he wasn't murdered yesterday, is terrible. Is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen several on my own social media with nothing quite like that, thankfully, but, jokes and things like that. Is it too soon? And I'm like, yeah, it's too soon. Really? At the same time, it's like I'm looking down the road and we have months, just a handful of months before a presidential election happens. And here's where my mind goes. In the next few months, in the next handful of weeks before the election, there is a whole lot of people who support someone who could be very enraged and who could then retaliate. And this could just hand over fist escalate. And I don't know how that stops. I don't know how we stop something like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, is there hateful speech on either side of the aisle? Absolutely. I don't know how we come back from that. I don't know how we stop this from snowballing into something that could be really scary. And we have a political convention coming next week, and I think there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be a lot that's going to happen there that's going to show us what the next few months are going to look like. You know, the messaging that comes out of next week could be huge in determining where this goes moving forward. But I do know that if it enrages and doesn't tamper, violence is just a matter of time. Continued violence is just a matter of time. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty frightening. That's pretty frightening to think about. Could we really go back to way back when our country was full of political violence, you know?
I'm sure there's some people, and I'll put myself in this camp. Have we really drifted that far away from it? I mean, yes, to this extent, it's been a few decades, but has the overtones or the undertones been there? And that doesn't make it right. I'm not saying this is the justification for this, because I agree with you. That to me, and I heard, you know, from the White House and the vice president, and I think Barack Obama, I saw a post from him too. I mean, there is no place in, you know, violence. There is no place in the politics, and there isn't. There really shouldn't. You should be able to freely say what you need to say, what you believe, your platform, and leave it up to the voters. If the voters don't like you, the voters aren't going to vote for you, and that should be the end of your career, not a bullet. Nobody should live in fear that they can't say what they need to say or what they believe or how they want to try to run this country. You know, I don't like to go doomsday with you. Not that you're a doomsday, but I don't like to go, you know, to that degree. But right now, today, less than 24 hours, I can't help but my mind go to the place of when the next time there's a rally, Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter, because all it takes is one person to say, well, they shot at mine, so I'm going to shoot at theirs. And then it just keeps going. And to your point, where does it end? Where does it stop? The last thing that I was going to say, you know, I wasn't there, thankfully. I did see it. I did see how fast Secret Service jumped to action. I think there was some military that was there that I saw. I heard local police were there. I've also heard some whispers that there should be an investigation because the Secret Service knew that this person was there and basically watched them shoot at Trump. I don't know how much of this is true or not, but I'm just going to go off of the basis of what I saw. And at this moment, with the information I have, I just want to give a great kudos to all those individuals, because without hesitating, from the safety of my chair in my living room watching a television, I heard the sounds. I heard him grab his ear. He dropped to the ground, and within half a second, there was 4 or 5 people on top of him trying to shield him. There were people running up on stage, putting themselves in harm's way, because I think even at that time, nobody knew where the shooter was or if they had him or not. And these individuals, without hesitating, probably have families of their own, ran up on stage and created a human shield to protect Trump, and replace Trump with anybody, right? It just happened to be Trump. But
I was going to say, not just Trump, but that has been their role for years, is to put themselves between our leaders, the people who make decisions, the people who make our laws, and who keep us civil, and the possibility of a bullet. And that was, there were 3 women there that, like, they got them in the car and they like straighten their jackets, and I was like, hell yeah, you know, like it was impressive.
It was very impressive.
Appreciate their service to all of our officials that benefit from their services. That's this would be a much scarier place if it wasn't for them, quite frankly.
Well, and this was the first time I've heard of Secret Service, right? I've heard of what they do, and you know, I've seen movies. This is kind of stupid to put a little bit of lightness into this, but I've seen The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston, and you know, Kevin Costner. I think he took a bullet for her, and I'm like, yeah, that's what they do. This was the first time I actually saw it in action, and I was like, I mean, the first words of my mouth was like, look at all those people rushing the stage. Like I'm like, where did they even come from? Like, I didn't even see them, and there was some poof, they were there. And yeah, I mean, just impressed, and want to give them a little bit of a nod. I'm sure, because I've already seen some things, I'm sure There are going to be people who are going to theorize that this was a setup, or the Democrats, made this happen and they were in cahoots with the CIA. And so they were told not to fire, and then they had to take out the shoot, whatever that's going to boil out of. What I saw on the television were heroes stepping into the line of fire, doing their job without hesitation, and they should be commended. All the men and women that were on that stage yesterday, helping with the crowd, working that event, my hat goes off to you. I was very much impressed.
Do you have any final thoughts, I guess, as we just kind of close this out? And
the only thing that comes to mind is, again, as we're still preparing for season 2, it's almost like they want us to come back on. The world wants us back, Jamie, because all these things start happening. But, difficult conversations is the theme for season 2. And I can't think of, last night I was kind of sitting down and reflecting on the entire, event after everything kind of wrapped up, and I was shut my news off. And I thought to myself, I'm like, if there's ever a difficult conversation that we just witnessed in real life, it was one of, this was it. This was one of the ones. I can see the list of topics that you and I want to talk about, and none of them ever talked about getting to the point where somebody was, an assassination attempt on anybody. But that's the reality that we just went through. And so as I sat through yesterday and kind of reflecting, I was like, what kind of difficult conversations have these people that are involved with this shooter, whatever they've gone through? Was there anything along the way that could have helped, that could have diffused the situation, that could have altered the course of this? I don't know, but that's kind of where I was sitting last night. I was like, where could we have adjusted? Where could any one of us adjusted even a little bit? And could this have had a different outcome? And, that's in the world or the realm of woulda, coulda, shoulda. And I know hindsight's 20/20, but that's where I've sat last night, was what could we have done as a country, as a society, a little bit different? So maybe this outcome would not have, thankful that when I say outcome, I'm saying no attempt on his life at all. But yeah, that's kind of where I was at. I don't really have anything more formulated than that. Just what could we have done? Where could we have changed some things? And I don't know if we could have or not, but that's my last thought of this is, how do we learn from it? How do we grow? And how do we prevent this from happening again? And how do we stop it from escalating?
You point out, how could we have avoided this? And I can't help but say we are at a crossroads right here. I think this is a massive wake-up call. Yesterday's events don't change my party affiliation. It doesn't change my thought or opinion or my vote. What it does do is really make me stop and reflect and say, what do we need to do moving forward? And what path are we going to take? I'm a firm believer that hate begets hate. Hate builds hate, it adds more hate, and it makes us hateful, and it makes us do hateful things. And that is something that has been building for a long time. And what are we going to do together as people, as humans in this country to make it stop? I, for one, am sitting here and really doing some self-examination to say, okay, where have I gone wrong? Where have I perpetuated unintentionally? I don't intend to spread hate, but where have I done that? It's insidious. And I think that's the thing that is forgotten the most, is that we didn't get here. We didn't get here all in a year. We didn't get here in 4 years. We didn't get here in 8 years. This has been an insidious thing that has been growing for a long time. And I don't know that we can find where it starts. I have my opinions. I have my view and what I see and what I've seen. And I'm positive, Malin, that you would look at that and say something completely different. I can almost hear it in my ear. And it's not about what's happened. It's about what's next. And what steps do we take moving forward? And really, how do we start now? How do we start having civil disagreement? How do we civilly disagree and continue to move forward? In the coming weeks, that's the piece that we have to remember, is that those people who don't plan to vote for Trump, we can't sit on social media and make jokes and say horrible, disgusting things. And those who plan to vote for Trump from the beginning, being enraged and trying to get back isn't going to help either. And so we have a choice to make. And I hope we choose well moving forward. This was a difficult conversation because it's difficult things that are happening. This is a difficult event. This is a difficult time. You know, I appreciate being able to have this conversation in a way that, I don't know, hopefully is a little bit of processing for me, for sure. Helpful to have a conversation with someone about it. And I hope you guys who are listening can do the same thing. So, surprise episode of Roundtable Mindset. We plan to be back not until September. So, barring any other, worldwide events that might bring us back to the table before that. And I'm just going to go ahead and knock on wood and say, please, God, can we not have any of those? That would be great. We'll see you in September for season 2. So,
well, and I hope everybody has what summer they have left. I hope it's uneventful. I hope you have a great time with your family. Maybe spend a little extra time with everybody today and just remembering that how fast, life can change. This Corey who went to a rally sounded like he was just going to a rally and had the rest of his life planned out. And in an instant, it changed. So just remember that, and just remember Corey and the life he lived and the family he left behind. And we will see you hopefully in September. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Jamie, for having our first of many difficult conversations.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time on Roundtable Mindset. This podcast was recorded and edited by Jamie and Malin. Music by Famous Cats. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, please email us at roundtablemindset@gmail.com. Text or call us at 402-819-8999 or join the conversation on Facebook at Roundtable Mindset Podcast.
And never miss a new episode by making sure you like, subscribe, and share wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for being our guest today. See you next time at the Roundtable. And remember, your opinions and perspectives matter and are appreciated, but might not always be shared by others, and that's okay.